Barbara Brown, two Barbaras from MDE with some MDE updates. Here.
Yep. Good morning. As Sylvia said, I'm Barbara Krupiarz, and with me, I'm the Land Restoration Program Manager at Maryland Department of the Environment. We have the Federal Assessment and Remediation Division and the State Assessment and Remediation Division, and Barbara Brown is the manager of our voluntary cleanup program. We also have Barbara Brox in our office, who's a project manager, and we hope to be hiring a couple of geologists in the future, so if you know any Barbaras that want a job, let us know. I unfortunately have to start with the bad news, and that is Maryland Department of the Environment doesn't provide grant money for cleaning up brownfields. We used to, and it ended in about 2008, so it's been a while. The good news is that there are a lot of people in this audience that can help you get grant funding to clean up brownfields or to assess them and clean them up. We have our EPA Region 3 folks that stood up earlier. And as Adam Ortiz said, and he gave you a big hint earlier, that Maryland entities have not applied for a lot of brownfield grants. That's his way of saying, you may have some priority if you apply because they really want Maryland to bump up their numbers. We work closely with Maryland Department of Planning, and not only are they available to help you find grants, but they have their own multi-purpose grant for Eastern Baltimore County. So if you are interested or have properties in that area, they are actively looking for folks to do some Phase 1 and Phase 2s. We also have West Virginia University, the technical assistance to brownfields. If Carrie and her team want to raise their hands, they are available to help people find funding, and then anything that goes along with that for assessing and cleaning up brownfields. And EPA is also telling us at MDE that they would really like to see some coalition grants. So partnering with different entities, including Maryland Department of the Environment. If you don't have the grant people that know how to manage the grants and all the requirements that go with that, come to us and let us know what you have in your community, and maybe we can set up a coalition grant with multiple entities, and we're happy to do that. Our table in the back has a poster that has the various ways to participate with Maryland Department of the Environment to assess and clean up brownfields, and there's lots of boxes and lots of arrows, and we don't want you to have a test at the end of this, but the point is that there are multiple ways to work with us to accomplish your goals. And I've been with Maryland Department of the Environment just a little over 3 years, and I've been in 2 other state agencies and a federal agency, and this is the best group of people I've ever worked with. So they are really with the government and here to help. It's a great group of people and very customer service oriented. We are talking about our updates. We have one update that's so new that it's not started yet, but it is what we're calling a lunch and learn session. We've found that there are some activities that have the same multiple issues, and so we want to have an informal virtual session at lunchtime with our folks, interactive, for you to ask questions and for us to give you some information on what's new or what's going wrong and how to fix it. So it can be for consultants, developers, attorneys, local governments, anybody. So we've started a list, and we'll be starting it in the new year, but if you have any subjects that you want us to talk about, contact us. I think there should be a slide with our email addresses on it. I have my card in the back on the table. If you have any topics that you would like us to address, we're happy to do that. And then all of you who have worked with us for a while know that we have some updates in some of our processes, and those of you that are new to our processes will gain that information as well, and I'm going to hand it over to our technical expert to talk about those, Barbara Brown.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes. Yes, Barbara Brown and Brownfield, it's an easy name to remember. So just to go over some of the new items and to give a little nudge for people that are working with this. One of the new policies that's been developed over the past couple years is the residential fee simple land use policy. And this is to ensure that fee simple housing developments, be it a townhouse or single-family home, has clean soil at least 10 feet below the slab. Now, again, there's some areas that are being developed around the coastal areas or areas with high water table or areas with perch zone, and as we've seen with the climate in Maryland, sometimes the water table goes up and down, and it can be difficult to ascertain where the water table is. So we do have some good information on our website about how you determine the zone of saturation. So a lot of people come to us in the voluntary cleanup program and the controlled hazardous substance program and say, well, I've got a site that has, potentially contaminated soil, and I'm not so sure that I can afford to put in housing if I have to dig up 10 feet and replace it with clean residential fill. So again, there's been a lot of creativity in looking at sites and site grading, because it is the total of fill and native material at the site. So you could have 5 feet of clean native material, but your grading plan, especially for trying to meet requirements for potential sea level rise, put 5 more clean feet of fill on top. So that gives you your 10 feet of clean fill that you can put your townhouse or your single-family home to ensure that the people are protected from any contaminated soil, or have, can do what they want. Your home is your castle, that you can dig in your yard and do things without restriction. Also, it gives people creativity for moving contaminated soil from potentially the yards, the townhouse stick, and cap it under an area that is under control from an HOA or a roadway. So we do have people that are implementing developments under the voluntary cleanup program that are meeting the new residential policy. So also, again, this might be old news to a lot of people, but we've been in business since 1997. So we have a lot of closed cases, a lot of cases that received NFRDs or COCs back in the 90s and early 2000s. And we find that now with the new partnership with Miss Utility and Terradex, where we get notifications that there's going to be work done at a property, that this property has passed between so many different owners, or has been subdivided, or the man or woman that is actually managing the property isn't aware that there is land use control. So what we encourage people that before you dig, or if you have a property, to make sure that you don't have a land use control on the property. And there's ways to determine that. I want to put in a shameless plug for the LRP mapping site that you can access through our VCP website, that basically has all the little green triangles for all the sites that have been completed in Maryland, and has drop-down menus where you can actually see if the site is subject to an NFRD or COC, or what sites are in the area. And that way you know, before we know, if you're digging in a site, that if you have a capped area or you have special soil management plans, you don't have us knocking on the door when you're digging and saying, oops, are you aware of this issue? And we do have fining authority now to find people that if they have blatantly ignored their land use controls. Another good resource for checking out land use controls is Maryland Land Rec, which is a way that you can check deeds and look at things. So we just remind everybody, be aware of what you could potentially have as deed restrictions on your property. Another new item in the last couple of years in our land use controls is we're requiring an environmental professional to submit an annual report. Basically, they go and make sure that the cap has stayed capped, there's no cracks in the pavement, that no disturbance of the slab may have affected the vapor barrier. And that report for the following year is due in January, so we just want to remind people we're in November, and be aware that this is a requirement that will be required to be submitted, and we do have good tracking to make sure that the ones we need to get, we will be getting. One really good thing that happened in the legislature, among a bunch of other good things, is it passed the fee waiver for solar energy. So now on our website, we have a brand-new form that if you are generating over 2 megawatts of clean renewable energy, you get your $6,000 VCP fee waived. So there's a form with that, and as of a year, we have one VCP application that's actually taking advantage of this, and we've had inquiries from a number that this could be applicable. So if you're doing solar energy, other forms of renewable energy, and are interested in the voluntary cleanup program to evaluate your brownfield property, this is a good resource. And then it comes to fill. So there's been a lot of work done over the last couple years also with the Maryland Port Authority, and they have a big program for innovative reuse of dredge material. We also have the understanding that sometimes, there's a lot of soil that moves back and forth in Maryland that you just can't landfill everything, and that there has to be a methodology for evaluating either potential reuse of fill material that's an excess at your site, or importing clean fill and fill material into a site to achieve grade. So the website defines the categories. Category 1, of course, is always clean residential fill. Category 2 is commercial fill. Category 3 is industrial. And Category 4 is that's going to the landfill or other proper disposal method. So again, when you work with the department on VCP sites or CHS sites, there's rigorous testing required. The more you know about your fill source, the better we are able to define what type of testing we require. But again, until we say it's clean for the use you're proposing under a VCP or CHS site, it's not clean. And also other agencies, people building schools, other contractual obligations have also used these categories to ensure that their contractors are bringing in material that might not, be contaminated. You basically want to make sure you're bringing clean to clean. So a big question we get from many people, the PFAS, PFOA, that whole class of chemicals, it's been in the news a lot lately, and we get questions, well, how is the VCP handling PFAS and PFOA? Right now, it's not classified as a hazardous substance, and our statutes require us to investigate hazardous substances and petroleum products. So PFAS and PFOA are not on our radar. I mean, I know people are doing it as part of their phase 1 and due diligence, but at this time, the VCP and the VCP certifications and NFRDs does not cover PFAS and PFOA. Our Water Management Administration is, of course, looking at it from, a potential water contaminant. But again, our brethren at EPA is determining whether any of those particular constituents are going to be listed. So right now, that's going to be an interesting new horizon in the next couple of years. One good bit of news, though, for those of us that have to deal with the legal paperwork in recording our certificates of completion or our no further requirements determination, is now you have 60 days to record it, where before it was 30 days, and especially with the mail and COVID and other issues, it was often difficult for people to take their document and get it recorded, and it would become void, and then we would have to reissue it. So hopefully this new 60-day allowance will limit the number of times where we have to reissue paperwork, which nobody likes reissuing paperwork. So that's some of the new and interesting topics. As Barbara Kay said, that there's probably going to be more things that we are going to have in the upcoming, months and years, and I would just recommend to everybody, pop into the website once in a while, because we do put updated fact sheets and new information. So I thank you for your participation today, and if you have any questions about the voluntary cleanup program or the controlled hazardous substance, and I do have to annoy my staff people and make them all stand up and wave. There. These are some of the hardest working project managers in the state. We have an abundance of active sites right now, so these people are doing really hard and good work, and we'll have the answers to most of the questions. So thank you again.